When Karoline Leavitt, the young White House press secretary, decided to surprise her mother with a dream home in rural New Hampshire, she planned every detail meticulously. The house would have everything her mom had ever wished for: a cozy porch for sipping tea, a small garden full of her favorite flowers, and enough space for the whole family to gather. But behind this amazing gift was a secret that would soon bring everyone to tears. After all, her mother had sacrificed so much to raise her and her siblings. Karoline wanted to give her the perfect token of gratitude. No one expected that this dream house would be more than just a home. It would become a place that deepened the bond between mother and daughter. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. Karoline Leavitt sat alone in her Washington, D.C. office. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight. Her colleagues had long gone home, leaving only the soft hum of her computer to break the silence. She opened the bottom drawer of her desk and pulled out an old photo album. The cover was worn, and a few pages were starting to loosen. This wasn't like the digital photo files people use nowadays. This was special. This was family. Karoline flipped through the pages slowly. There was her mom, Diane, younger, holding her as a baby. Another showed her helping Karoline with a high school journalism assignment. In every photo, her mother's smile shone brightly, even on the tough days. Never complained, Karoline whispered to herself. Not once. She paused at a picture from when she was 10. They stood in front of the family ice cream shop in Atkinson, New Hampshire. It wasn't a fancy place, but her mom had made it a home. In the background, on the counter, a magazine lay open, displaying a picture of a quaint little house in the countryside. Karoline remembered that day clearly. Her mom pointed at the photo and said, "Someday, I'd love a house like that with a big porch and a garden full of flowers, room for you kids and grandkids too, when the time comes." But that day never came. Though Karoline had achieved great success in her political career, her mom still lived simply. She kept working at the family ice cream shop, helping her husband run the used truck dealership, and never asked for anything extravagant. Whenever Karoline offered to buy her something, she'd say, "Save your money for important things, sweetheart," as if she herself wasn't important. Karoline closed the album and picked up her phone. It was late, but she couldn't wait any longer. She scrolled through her contacts and hit call. "Emma, sorry for calling so late," she said. "No problem, Miss Leavitt," her assistant replied, sounding alert despite the hour. "How can I help?" "It's time to launch Operation Homecoming," Karoline said. "I found the perfect place." There was a pause on the other end. "Really? That's amazing. The house in New Hampshire, right?" "Yes, the one with the big porch and wide garden. I want to move on it immediately." Karoline had been searching for the perfect house for months. She'd asked Emma to keep it top secret. No one could know, especially her mom. This had to be the biggest surprise of her life. "I'll reach out to Sarah in the morning," Emma said. "She's been in touch with the seller like you asked." "No," Karoline replied, standing and walking to the window. The city lights twinkled below. "Call her now. I don't care about the time. I want to close the deal tonight." "Yes, ma'am." After hanging up, Karoline opened the house's pictures on her computer. It was even prettier than the one in her mom's childhood magazine. The house sat in rural New Hampshire, surrounded by lush green fields. It had 3 bedrooms, a wide porch with rocking chairs, and a garden big enough for flowers and vegetables. This was the place her mom had always dreamed of, a simple home filled with love. The spacious kitchen and private bathroom were ideal for family gatherings, and the garden was exactly what her mom had always wanted. 15 minutes later, Karoline's phone rang. It was Sarah, the real estate agent. "Miss Leavitt? I just spoke with Emma. You really want to close tonight?" "Absolutely," Karoline replied. "And Sarah, you remember our deal? Not a word to anyone." "Of course," Sarah said. "The sellers will be thrilled. They've been waiting for your offer. They really admire your work at the White House." "I want one more condition," Karoline added. "I need the house ready in 6 weeks." "6 weeks?" Sarah exclaimed. "But the renovations and permits, money's no object." Karoline cut in. "Whatever it costs to finish in 6 weeks, I'll pay. My mom's birthday is coming up. The house has to be ready by then." After settling the details, Karoline hung up and leaned back in her chair. With all her achievements from press assistant to White House press secretary, Nothing had ever felt quite as fulfilling as this. This wasn't about politics or changing the world. This was about the woman who'd made it all possible for her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Offer accepted. We own the house. Karoline smiled and replied, get the renovation team together now. Only the best. And Emma, find an interior designer who can nail exactly what my mom wants. Got it. Olivia Brooks is available. She's the best in New Hampshire, Emma responded. Book her. And remember, absolute secrecy. If the press finds out, the surprise is ruined. Karoline walked to the office mini fridge, pulling out a bottle of apple cider she'd saved for a special occasion. Today was worth it, she thought. She poured a glass and returned to the window. To Mom, she said, raising it to the night sky. You gave me everything. It's time I gave back. She took a small sip and set the glass down. There was still so much to do. The house was just the start. She needed to plan every detail of the surprise, how to get her mom there without suspicion, what to put in each room, how to make the house feel like it had always been hers. The phone rang again. It was her brother, Michael. You really did it? He asked without a greeting. Word travels fast, Karoline laughed. Emma told you? She thought I should know. Sophie and I want to help. You can't do this alone. I was going to call you both in the morning, Karoline said. We've been waiting forever for you to do this, Michael said. Mom deserves it more than anyone. I know, Karoline replied softly. I should have done it sooner. Better late than never. Send me the details. Whatever you need, we're in. Hanging up, Karoline returned to her desk and opened her laptop. She created a new folder labeled Mom's Dream House. Inside, she saved photos of the house, renovation ideas, and a list of everything her mom had ever mentioned about her ideal home. A porch with rocking chairs, floral curtains, a wooden dining table for the whole family. As she worked through the night, adding notes and details to the plan, she felt a purpose beyond political success. This wasn't about changing the world. This was about changing one person's world. The person who changed her life. Mom deserves it more than anyone, she whispered, echoing her brother as the first light of dawn crept into the office. When she closed the laptop, memories flooded back like waves. Karoline leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and let herself drift to her childhood in Atkinson, New Hampshire. She was 9 again, sitting at the counter of the family ice cream shop. The power was out because a bill hadn't been paid. Diane sat across from her, her face lit only by candlelight. Even in that dim glow, her mom smiled, telling her about a dream house with a garden full of carnations. Someday, she said, we'll have a place of our own. Karoline opened her eyes, filled with resolve. This house wasn't just a gift. It was a promise from that 9-year-old girl, now coming true. She could see how tired her mom was. It's just temporary, Diane said, trying to sound cheerful. Next week we'll have power again. Little Karoline nodded, pretending it didn't bother her. She was doing her journalism homework by candlelight, her hand aching from writing, her eyes stinging from straining to see the small print. Maybe I should stop working at the ice cream shop, Diane said, more to herself than to Karoline. I could focus on sales at the truck dealership full time. But you like the shop? Karoline looked up from her notebook. Diane reached over and ruffled her hair. I love you kids more. Besides, the dealership's steadier. What Karoline didn't know then was that her mom was juggling 3 jobs to keep the family afloat. She woke at 4 a.m. to open the ice cream shop, worked the dealership by day, and picked up weekend shifts at a local diner. The memory shifted to another day. Karoline was 12, just finished her first article for the school paper, a story about the local fair. She couldn't wait to show her mom. Diane had just gotten home from work, eyes sunken with exhaustion. But when Karoline handed her the piece, her face lit up like it was a holiday. This is incredible, Karoline, she exclaimed, reading every line. You're going to do big things someday. She didn't just say it, she believed it. While others dismissed her ideas as childish, Diane always took her seriously. When Karoline talked about dreams of journalism or politics, her mom didn't laugh. She encouraged her. Another memory rushed in. Karoline was 14, waking up at midnight for a glass of water. She paused outside the kitchen when she heard her mom's soft voice on the phone. "It sounds silly at my age, Linda," Diane said to her friend, "but I still dream of a little house." Karoline peeked around the corner. Her mom sat at the kitchen table, a magazine open to a page of house photos in front of her. "It'd be in the countryside," she went on, "with a big porch to watch the sunset, a garden for carnations and veggies. Not too big, but enough room for the kids and grandkids to visit all at once." She chuckled at something her friend said. "No, I don't think it'll ever happen, but it's fun to dream, right? Anyway, I'm saving for the kids' education. That's more important than a silly house." Karoline slipped back to her room, a plan forming. Someday she'd buy her mom that house. It would have everything she wanted: the porch, the garden, space for the family. She wrote the idea on a piece of paper and tucked it into her literature book, labeling it Mom's Dream House in the Country. Now, sitting in her Washington office, Karoline opened her eyes, pulled out her wallet, and took out an old folded piece of paper, yellowed with time. That childhood promise had stayed with her through every success and challenge, a reminder of what truly mattered. The phone rang, snapping her out of her reverie. It was Sarah, the real estate agent. "Miss Leavitt, good news. The sellers signed everything. The house is officially yours." "Thank you, Sarah. When can renovations start?" "The contractor can begin tomorrow. I've sent the info to Emma." Hanging up, Karoline opened her desk drawer and pulled out a child's drawing. The simple sketch, clearly done by a little girl, showed a small house in a field, with stick figures of a family out front. At the top, in messy handwriting, it read Mom's Dream House. She smiled, her heart swelling. The house wasn't just a gift, it was how she'd keep her promise to her mom, to the 9-year-old girl who'd sat by candlelight. She opened her laptop, adding notes to the Mom's Dream House folder: floral curtains for the living room, an oak dining table, a reading nook by the window. Each detail was a piece of making her mom's dream real. As the first daylight filtered into the office, Karoline whispered, "Mom deserves it more than anyone." This house would be a testament to her mother's love and sacrifice, and her own gratitude. That little girl, Karoline, had drawn the picture the very next day after overhearing her mom on the phone. Now, years later, she was finally making that dream come true. Karoline carefully tucked the drawing into her briefcase. She'd give it to the interior designer for inspiration. Every detail of the house had to reflect her mom's dream, not hers. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister Sophie. "Michael says you bought the house. I'm so excited. How can I help?" Karoline smiled and texted back, "Find all of Mom's favorite books. I want her new library to be perfect." Sophie replied instantly, "On it? Mom's going to cry when she sees this place." "That's the plan," Karoline texted back. She stood stretching. She'd stayed up all night but didn't feel tired. There was too much to do. In 6 weeks, she'd give her mom the surprise of a lifetime. After everything Diane had done for her and her siblings, this was the least she could do. As she gathered her things to head home for a quick shower before a day of meetings, Karoline paused at the office door. The childhood drawing peeked out of her briefcase. "Soon, Mom," she said softly. Very soon. She thought about how her mom had always believed in her, even when her dreams seemed impossible. When she ran for Congress at 25, people laughed. A young girl in big politics? No way. But Diane was different. She just said, "If anyone can do it, it's you." That faith had carried Karoline through the toughest times. When the campaign failed, when the White House pressure mounted, when the media called her a rising star but doubted her, her mom was always there. Now it was her turn to make her mom's dream come true. Driving home through the early morning traffic, Karoline's mind raced with the next steps. She needed to coordinate with Michael and Sophie. They knew best how to make the house a home for Mom. She also needed to meet Olivia Brooks, the interior designer, as soon as possible. This wasn't just a house, it was a testament to everything Diane had given her kids: love, support, belief. It was a thank you for the sacrifices, the dreams she'd set aside so they could chase theirs. Karoline pulled up to her place, sitting in the car for a moment, looking at the childhood drawing again. "Your turn, Mom," she whispered. "Your turn to live your dream." 3 days later, Karoline stood in front of the house in rural New Hampshire. A light breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass, rustling her hair as she waited for Olivia Brooks, the interior designer. The house was even more beautiful than in the photos. From where she stood she could see green fields stretching out, dotted with a few fiery red maples. A white car pulled into the driveway. A tall woman in stylish glasses stepped out, carrying a portfolio. She looked around, clearly struck by the scenery. "Miss Leavitt," she said, extending a hand. "I'm Olivia Brooks, pleasure to meet you." "Call me Karoline," she replied, shaking the designer's hand. "Thanks for coming on such short notice. When Emma called and told me about the project, I cleared my schedule," Olivia said. "I couldn't pass this up." They walked toward the house, and Olivia asked, "So this is a surprise for your mom?" Karoline nodded. She's always dreamed of a country house but never got one for herself. She was too busy taking care of everyone else. Olivia smiled. "Sounds like a classic mom." Inside, the house was spacious and bright, with big windows overlooking the fields, but it needed work. The previous owners had left odd paint colors and dated furniture. "We have 6 weeks to turn this into a home," Karoline said. "It has to be perfect for my mom." Olivia nodded, jotting notes quickly. "I'll need a list of her preferences, colors, styles, everything." Karoline pulled the childhood drawing from her briefcase and handed it to Olivia. "Start here," she said. "This was her dream when I was a kid." Olivia looked at the drawing and smiled. "This is special. I'll make sure this house feels like she's stepping into her own dream." Olivia walked around, taking notes and snapping photos on her tablet. "It's tight timing, but doable," she said. "How do you envision the space?" Karoline pulled out the childhood drawing from her briefcase. "This might sound silly, but I drew this when I was 14. Olivia studied it with genuine interest. "Not silly at all. This is your mom's dream through your eyes. It's perfect inspiration." For the next 2 hours they toured every room in the house. Karoline told her about her mom, how Diane loved natural light, the color blue and cozy spaces for people to gather. "Mom's not into flashy stuff," Karoline explained as they stood in the master bedroom. "She values quality but cares more about comfort and practicality than luxury." Olivia nodded, scribbling fast. "What about the kitchen? Does she cook a lot?" "Always," Karoline smiled. "Even now when she visits, she insists on cooking for everyone. The kitchen needs to be special." As they moved through the house, Karoline's excitement grew. She could see it taking shape, not some showy politician's retreat, but a warm home where her mom could spend happy days with the things and people she loved. "One more thing," Karoline said, as they wrapped up the tour. "My mom loves gardening and cares about sustainable living. I want a small garden where she can grow vegetables and carnations." "I know the perfect spot," Olivia said, leading Karoline to a sunny patch near the open land. "We can put a little garden here, full sun all day." Karoline's phone rang. It was Emma, her assistant. "Miss Leavitt, we've got a problem. The local weather service just issued a blizzard warning for New Hampshire. It could hit in 4 days and last through the weekend." Karoline frowned. "How bad?" "High winds, heavy snow. The kind of weather that could delay construction." Hanging up, Karoline shared the news with Olivia. "This could set us back," Olivia said, concerned. "Especially if there's damage to the house." "We can't let that happen," Karoline said firmly. "The house has to be ready in 6 weeks, no matter what. We need to secure the site before the storm hits." Olivia nodded. "I'll call the contractor today. We might need round-the-clock work to stay on track." As they headed back to the car, Olivia hesitated, curious about something. "Can I ask a personal question?" she said, tentatively. "Sure, you've accomplished so much, but you seem more excited about this house than any other achievement. Why is this project so important?" Karoline paused, gazing out at the green fields. It was a fair question. "Growing up, my family didn't have much," she began. "There were times Mom had to choose between paying the electric bill or buying groceries, but she never complained. She worked 3 jobs at once to make sure we had what we needed. She turned to Olivia. Mom worked the ice cream shop from early morning, sold trucks at the dealership during the day, and waited tables at a local diner on weekends. Late at night, after we were asleep, she'd sit balancing the books to make extra cash. When I wanted to take a journalism class at school, she picked up more shifts to cover the fees. When I talked about dreams of politics, or changing how the media works, she didn't laugh like others did. She believed in me. Karoline gestured toward the house. Everything I've achieved, I owe to her belief that I could do the impossible. So yes, this house matters more than any campaign or White House speech. Olivia listened, clearly moved. Karoline gave a small smile, looking at the house. This isn't just a house, it's how I say thank you to Mom for giving up her dreams, so I could chase mine. Olivia nodded. I get it, we'll make this house special, just like she deserves. As they parted ways, Karoline stood alone in front of the house. A gentle breeze blew through, carrying the scent of wildflowers from the fields. She pictured her mom stepping inside, seeing the garden, the porch, the library full of books. She knew that moment would be worth every effort, no matter the blizzards or challenges ahead. This house is for the woman who made it all possible. Olivia nodded, her eyes full of understanding. We'll make it perfect, storm or no storm. As Olivia drove off, Karoline checked the weather app on her phone. The blizzard looked serious. Sustained winds of 50 miles per hour, gusting up to 70. It was definitely going to cause trouble. She called her brother Michael. Hey, he answered. How'd the meeting with the designer go? Good, but there's a problem. A blizzard's heading for New Hampshire. It could slow everything down. How can I help? Michael asked. Can you come here? I need someone I trust to oversee things if I'm tied up with White House work. I'll take the earliest flight, Michael promised. Hanging up, Karoline looked at the house one more time before getting into her car. Despite the risk of delays, she remained resolute. The storm couldn't stop her from giving her mom the perfect gift. As she drove away, gray clouds began gathering on the horizon. The weather app buzzed with an update. The storm had been upgraded in severity, expected to hit sooner than forecast. Karoline frowned at the alert, then put her phone away. Nothing can ruin this, she told herself. Nothing. Over 1,000 miles away, Diane sat at her kitchen table in Atkinson, New Hampshire, sipping her morning tea. In her 60s, she still carried a simple beauty with her short silver hair and graceful demeanor. The family ice cream shop still called her in occasionally, though she'd cut back hours to enjoy time with her grandkids. She opened her laptop to check email. There were invitations to a local fair, requests for small business advice, and messages from friends. But one email caught her eye instantly. It was from Karoline's subject line. Important meeting. Need Mom in New Hampshire. Diane opened it. Mom, I need to meet in person to discuss something important. Can you come to New Hampshire next Friday? I'll arrange a car to pick you up. Plan to stay at least a week. Love, Karoline. She frowned. Karoline wasn't usually this vague. Her messages were typically direct, clear. Why a whole week? Was something wrong? She picked up her phone to call Karoline, but it went to voicemail. She tried Michael, then Sophie, but neither answered. Odd. Her kids were always quick to respond to her. She checked her calendar. There was a community event next week, but she could reschedule. If Karoline said it was important, it must be. She replied to the email. Dear Karoline, of course I'll come. Is everything okay? I couldn't reach you or your siblings. Should I be worried? Love, Mom. Almost instantly, she got a response. Everything's fine, Mom. Just busy with some projects. Nothing to worry about. Emma will send pickup details. See you soon. Love, Karoline. Diane sighed in relief. If Karoline said it was fine, she trusted her, but she was still curious about this mysterious meeting. As she closed the laptop, her gaze landed on a photo on the wall, Karoline speaking at the White House, confident and strong. That familiar swell of pride hit her. From the little girl writing school papers, she'd become the youngest press secretary in history. All three of her kids had made it. Michael with his sustainable business, Sophie with her community charity, and Karoline reshaping political media. She smiled. Not bad for a mom who struggled to keep an ice cream shop running, she thought. She stood heading to the bedroom to grab a suitcase from the closet. As she pulled it out, memories flooded back. Images of tough days in Atkinson, when she worked 3 jobs to raise her kids. Early mornings at the ice cream shop, long days at the truck dealership, and late nights balancing the books. Exhausted as she was, she always kept a smile for her children. She remembered Karoline, 10, sitting at the counter, talking about her dream of journalism. Someday I'll tell big stories, the girl had said. Diane had believed her, just as she believed in all her kids. She started packing, choosing comfy clothes and a favorite blue scarf. She thought about Karoline, about the mysterious meeting. Maybe she wanted to share a new political plan, or just gather the family. Whatever it was, Diane knew she'd always be there for her kids, as she always had. As she zipped the suitcase, she whispered, "Karoline, what are you up to?" A smile spread across her face, ready for whatever surprise her daughter had in store. After her divorce, life had been incredibly hard for Diane. Some nights, she went hungry so her kids could eat. She took any job she could, often working from dawn to midnight. It was all worth it, she murmured as she folded clothes into the suitcase. She recalled a harsh winter in Atkinson, when they couldn't afford heat. The family huddled in the living room under blankets, and she read to the kids by candlelight to save power. Despite the struggles, she made sure they got a good education. She encouraged their dreams, no matter how far-fetched. When 12-year-old Karoline declared she'd be a political journalist, Diane didn't laugh. She took her to the library, borrowing books on media and politics. Now packing for the in-state trip, Diane wondered what this meeting was about. From experience, when Karoline was cryptic, she was usually planning something big. 3 days later, Diane boarded the car Karoline had arranged in Atkinson. The driver greeted her warmly. "Mrs. Leavitt, welcome. We'll reach the house in about 2 hours." "Thank you," Diane said, settling into the comfy seat. "Just call me Diane." As the car rolled through rural roads, a woman about her age sat across from her. "Hi," the woman said, offering a friendly smile. "I'm Ellen. Karoline asked me to ride along since I'm headed this way too." "Nice to meet you," Diane replied. "Do you work with Karoline?" "In a way," Ellen answered vaguely. "Are you visiting family?" "Yes," my daughter said. "She needs to discuss something important." Diane explained, "But she's being pretty mysterious." "Any guesses what it's about?" Ellen asked. Diane shook her head. "Not sure. You know how tight-lipped Karoline can be with her projects." Throughout the ride, they chatted easily. Ellen was a great listener, asking subtle questions that kept the conversation flowing. "It must be exciting being Karoline Leavitt's mom," Ellen said. "Do you worry she works too hard?" Diane chuckled. "Always. That girl doesn't know how to slow down. I tell her to take care of herself, but she just says there's too much to do, and too little time." "Does she live in a big mansion?" Ellen asked. "I read all sorts of things about her life." "It makes me both proud and worried," Diane said. Despite her success, Karoline lives in a small apartment in Washington. She's not one for showing off. But sometimes I think she goes too far the other way. Works non-stop and barely has a personal life. Ellen nodded sympathetically. "Sounds like you're still very much a mom, always watching out for her." "You're a mom forever," Diane smiled. "Even if your kid's the press secretary." They kept talking, Diane not noticing Ellen occasionally jotting notes on her phone. She was too busy enjoying the chat with this friendly woman, who seemed genuinely interested in her story. What she didn't know was that Ellen worked for Olivia Brooks, the interior designer. Her mission was to gather as much insight as possible about Diane's preferences and memories, details that would make the house truly a home. As the car passed through New Hampshire's lush green fields, Diane gazed out the window. She had no idea that somewhere in this countryside was a house about to be hers. A house her daughter had been secretly preparing for months. A house now being fortified against the coming blizzard. "Pretty, isn't it?" Ellen said, looking out. "New Hampshire's so peaceful." Diane nodded. "I've always loved it here." There's something that lightens the heart. She thought about Karoline, about why she'd called her here. Maybe a family surprise? A moment to bring everyone together. Ellen smiled, keeping the secret. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time. Danayan turned back to the scenery, unsuspecting of the grand gift awaiting her. At the house, the renovation team was racing against time, checking the roof and windows to weather the storm. Karoline, though busy in Washington, kept close tabs via Michael's texts. She pictured her mom stepping inside, seeing the porch with rocking chairs, the small garden, and a library full of books. She knew that even if the blizzard hit, the moment her mom saw the house would make every effort worthwhile. Ellen noticed Danayan staring out the window. It's beautiful, Danayan agreed. I've always loved the countryside. If I could pick a place to live, it'd be among fields like these, with a little garden. Ellen smiled, making a final note on her phone. Countryside views and garden are essential. Meanwhile, at the house in rural New Hampshire, chaos reigned. The blizzard, expected in 4 days, had shifted course overnight. Now it was forecast to hit within 24 hours. Olivia Brooks stood in the yard, directing workers as they secured equipment and boarded up windows with plywood. Her neat hair was now a mess from the wind, which had begun to pick up. Move those paint cans to the shed. Olivia shouted over the rising howl of the wind. Make sure all the machinery is covered and tied down. Michael, Karoline's brother, ran up, phone in hand. I just talked to the weather service. It's worse than they thought. Sustained winds at 70 miles per hour, gusts up to 90. Olivia brushed hair from her face, worried. That's nearly Category 1 hurricane strength. Close enough, Michael agreed. Karoline's on her way. She's bringing generators in case we lose power. As if summoned, an SUV pulled into the yard. Karoline stepped out, her face tense as she took in the flurry of activity around the house. How bad is it? She asked, joining Michael and Olivia. Bad, Michael replied. They're evacuating some lower areas in the state. We're safe here, Olivia reassured. The house is on high ground, but we'll definitely lose a few days of work. Karoline frowned. We can't let that happen. Mom's arriving tomorrow morning. Sophie will pick her up and keep her busy in town for a couple days while we sort this out. A strong gust scattered a stack of blueprints from Olivia's car. The three of them scrambled to chase them down, grabbing them before they blew away. How's the renovation progress? Karoline asked as they weighed the recovered papers with rocks. Olivia checked her tablet. Kitchen's half done. Bathroom started but not finished. Wall painting was set for today, but with this weather. What about the roof? Michael glanced up at the house. Is it solid? Olivia hesitated. It's an old house. The roof was on the reinforcement list for next week. As if answering her concern, a loud crack sounded from above. A loose shingle slid off, shattering on the porch. That's it, Karoline said firmly. Everyone inside. It's not safe out here anymore. They gathered the workers and moved into the house, where Olivia set up a temporary command center in the future living room. Blueprints were spread across a makeshift table, and a tablet displayed weather radar showing the storm closing in. If we lose a day to the storm, we'll need to work around the clock afterward to catch up, Olivia said, reviewing the renovation schedule. Money's not an issue, Karoline reminded her. Hire more crews, pay overtime, whatever it takes. It's not just money, Olivia explained. Paint needs time to dry. Custom cabinets need time to be built, and if the storm brings water damage, she didn't finish. They all knew water could wreck the timeline. Karoline's phone rang. It was Sophie. You guys okay? She asked, voice anxious. The news is all about the storm. We're fine, Karoline reassured. But it might delay renovations. Can you keep Mom busy an extra day or two in town? Already planned, Sophie replied. I booked Mom a spa day and dinner with some old friends nearby. She won't suspect a thing. Karoline sighed in relief. Sophie was always reliable at keeping secrets. She looked around the room, where workers were checking windows and securing items. Even with the blizzard looming, she pictured her mom walking into the finished house, the porch with rocking chairs, a snow-dusted garden, and a kitchen warm with the smell of her baking. Olivia approached, holding a blueprint. If we get through the storm without major damage, we can still make the deadline. But we'll need more hands after it passes. Do it, Karoline said. I want Mom to see this house exactly as she dreamed. Michael clapped her shoulder. Mom's going to love it. Storm or not, we'll pull this off. Karoline nodded, her resolve firm. She thought of the nights her mom went hungry so they could eat. The long days at the ice cream shop to fuel her dreams. This storm, no matter how fierce, couldn't stop her from repaying that love. She looked out the window, where the first snowflakes began to fall, and whispered, "It'll be perfect, Mom." "I promise." "Thanks, Sophie," Karoline said, relieved. "Let me know when Mom gets there." As darkness fell, the blizzard grew fiercer. Snow fell thick and fast, pelting the windows, the wind howling around the house's corners. Inside, the crew had set up emergency lights and monitored the weather closely. "I don't like this sound," Michael said as a strong gust rattled the windows. Olivia nodded. "The good news is the house's structure is solid. It's weathered blizzards for decades." But she was cut off by a new sound, a steady drip of water from the ceiling. The group looked up, spotting water seeping through the ceiling in Diane's future bedroom. "Not good," Olivia said, stating the obvious. Karoline sprang into action. "Show me where it's coming in." They climbed to the attic, flashlights piercing the dark. Water was leaking through a section of roof where shingles had loosened. "We need to patch it now," Karoline said, scanning for materials. For the next hour, she, Michael, and Olivia worked frantically, using tarps and boards to cover the damaged spot. They were soaked and exhausted by the end, but the flow had slowed to a drip. "We'll have to replace this whole section after the storm," Olivia said, wiping water from her face. Karoline nodded, too tired to speak. She checked the time. Nearly midnight. She'd been awake nearly 2 days straight between White House duties and the house crisis. Michael noticed his sister's exhaustion. "You should rest. I'll take first watch and wake you if anything happens." Karoline wanted to argue, but knew he was right. She needed a few hours to keep going. "Wake me in 4 hours, no matter what," she said. She found a relatively dry corner in the future living room, leaning against the wall. Despite the roaring wind and occasional crashes outside, she fell asleep almost instantly. In her dream, she saw her mom's face when she first saw the house. Diane smiled, tears of joy streaming down. Then the scene shifted. Water flooded in, ruining everything. Karoline jolted awake, heart pounding. But it wasn't a flood that woke her, it was her phone. Sophie was calling. "Mom just arrived," Sophie said, when she picked up. "I'm heading to get her now." Karoline checked the time. She'd slept less than 2 hours, but there was no time for more. The storm still raged outside, and now Mom was close. "How's it going there?" Sophie asked. Karoline glanced around, buckets catching leaks, mud tracked across the floor, and the chaos of a construction site mid-storm. "Everything's under control," she lied. "Just keep Mom away for a couple days." Hanging up, she found Michael and Olivia in the kitchen, tackling a new issue. The custom cabinets, delivered yesterday, had gotten wet when a window leaked. The wood was starting to warp. "We'll have to reorder," Olivia said, her voice weary. Karoline felt a flicker of despair. Then she remembered why they were doing this, for the woman who never gave up, no matter the odds. If her mom could raise 3 kids on 3 jobs, she could handle a storm and some ruined cabinets. "Order new ones," she told Olivia. "And call in more help as soon as the road's clear. Nothing's ruining tomorrow." As if challenging her resolve, a loud crash sounded outside. They rushed to the window, seeing a massive tree had fallen, blocking the driveway, the only way to the house. "Nothing, huh?" Michael asked, raising an eyebrow at his sister. Karoline took a deep breath, steadying herself. "We'll clear it. Call a removal crew for morning." Olivia checked the weather radar. The storm might ease by dawn, but there'll still be heavy snow. "We need to reinforce the windows more and check the basement for flooding." Michael nodded. "I'll call for backup. We've got a few hours before the worst hits." Karoline looked out at the snow blanketing the fields. She thought of her mom, working at the ice cream shop with frozen hands, still smiling at customers. "Mom got through worse winters than this," she said. So will we. They got back to work, checking each room, securing everything. Karoline hauled more buckets to catch leaks, while Michael re-secured tarps in the yard. Olivia coordinated with the contractor, arranging extra crews for after the storm. Though exhausted, Karoline felt a surge of new energy. Karoline gritted her teeth, her gaze unwavering. Nothing, she confirmed. Get me a saw. By the next morning, the blizzard had finally passed. Sunlight pierced through the clouds, revealing the damage left behind. The fallen tree had been cut into pieces, neatly stacked by the driveway. The roof was temporarily patched. Water damage was contained as much as possible. Karoline, Michael and Olivia stood in the yard, surveying their work. They were exhausted, covered in mud, having barely slept a few hours over the past few days. But the air buzzed with a sense of accomplishment. They had weathered the storm. We lost at least 3 days of work, Olivia said, checking her tablet. But I've called in extra crews. They'll arrive this afternoon. Karoline nodded, too tired to speak. Her phone rang. It was Sophie. How's Mom? She asked, trying to sound more awake than she felt. Mom's fine, Sophie replied. I booked her a full spa day today. She thinks it's a gift from me. How's the house looking? Karoline glanced at the tarps covering the roof, the mud tracked across the floors, and the chaos of a construction site that had just survived a storm. It's getting there, she said. We need a few more days. No problem. I've got Mom scheduled through the weekend. Let me know when you're ready. Hanging up, Karoline turned to Michael. I've got to head back to Washington to check on work. Can you stay and oversee things? Of course, Michael assured her. Go. I've got this. 2 days later, Diane arrived at Sophie's house in a town near Atkinson. Sophie explained that Karoline was tied up with meetings, but wanted Mom to relax at her place. That's odd, Diane said as Sophie helped her with her suitcase. Karoline's rarely too busy to see family. You know how she gets with big projects. Sophie shrugged. She'll meet us for dinner tonight. When Sophie left, supposedly for errands, but actually to check on the house's progress, Diane wandered around Sophie's home. For a successful family, Sophie's house was modest. The furniture was cozy, but not expensive. The kitchen was simple. The only standout was a bookshelf overflowing with novels and inspirational books. Diane smiled. Despite their achievements, her kids held to the values she'd taught them, valuing knowledge over material things. As she entered the living room, something caught her eye. On the coffee table sat a beautifully wrapped gift box with a card that simply read, "For Mom." Surprised, Diane picked it up. She carefully opened the card. Mom, follow the clues to find your surprise. Start by opening this box. Love, Karoline. Curious, Diane opened the box. Inside was a photo album she'd never seen. Its cover labeled Journey. She opened it, finding family pictures spanning years, starting with her holding newborn Karoline. Each photo had a handwritten note in Karoline's script. Under a shot of the Atkinson ice cream shop, Mom made even the smallest places a home. Next to Karoline with her first school article, Mom worked extra hours so I could take journalism class. I'll never forget. Near a picture of Diane at the ice cream counter, smiling at customers, Mom taught me age doesn't stop dreams. As she turned the pages, Diane's eyes welled with tears. Each note captured a memory through Karoline's eyes, moments of Diane's love and support that had made a difference in her life. The final page showed a photo of a New Hampshire countryside field, with a riddle below. I'm green but not a tree. I'm wide but have no walls. I'm peaceful but not silent. The place Mom said she wanted to live. That's where your next clue waits. Diane wiped her tears, smiling. She remembered telling Karoline about her dream of a house in the meadows, with a porch and a carnation garden, but she had no inkling of what Karoline was orchestrating. At the house, the renovation team worked tirelessly. The roof was reinforced. New kitchen cabinets were en route. Michael oversaw painters, ensuring Mom's favorite blue was used. Olivia checked floral curtains and the oak dining table, confirming every detail matched Karoline's drawing. Over the phone, Karoline monitored closely, her heart swelling with anticipation. She knew Mom would soon see the album and riddle, inching closer to the grand surprise. Diane closed the album, clutching it like a treasure. She thought of Karoline, her journey from school reporter to White House press secretary. "What is that girl up to?" she whispered, her smile tinged with curiosity. She didn't know that, just a few miles away, her dream house was being perfected, ready to make her vision real. She stood, looking for Sophie to ask about the riddle, unknowingly stepping closer to the moment that would change everything. Diane thought for a moment. "A field," she whispered. But that didn't clarify where to go next. She reread the riddle. The last two lines were key. "The place Mom said she wanted to live. That's where your next clue waits." She'd always told her kids she wanted to live in rural New Hampshire, with a porch and flower garden. But where was the riddle leading her specifically? She pondered, then noticed a small arrow drawn at the page's bottom, pointing to the album's back cover. She flipped it open, finding an envelope taped there. Inside was a note, "Check the shed." Curious, Diane walked to Sophie's shed. Instead of her sister's car, she found a black SUV with a driver standing by. The middle-aged man had kind eyes and a professional demeanor. "Mrs. Leavitt," he smiled. "I'm Daniel. I'm here to take you to meet your daughter." "Where are we going?" Diane asked, increasingly drawn into this elaborate game. "I'm afraid that's part of the surprise," Daniel replied. Miss Karoline was very clear about not revealing the destination. Diane laughed. So like Karoline, always crafting mysteries and puzzles like she did as a kid. "All right, Daniel," she said, climbing into the SUV. "I guess we're in for an adventure." As the car pulled away from Sophie's, Diane couldn't help wondering what her daughter was scheming. Whatever it was, she knew it would be heartfelt. Despite her busy White House life, Karoline always found ways to show she cared. Diane thought about the album and the notes Karoline wrote. She was touched to know Karoline remembered every small moment from their past. As a mother, she never knew which lessons or experiences would stick with her kids. Seeing what Karoline cherished made her feel every struggle was worth it. "How long have you worked for my daughter?" she asked Daniel as the car moved along. "About 2 years," he replied. "Never a dull moment, I can assure you." Diane laughed. "Sounds like Karoline, always full of ideas and energy." "She thinks the world of you," Daniel said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "When she asked me to help with this surprise, she said it was for the most important person in her life." Diane felt her eyes sting. She'd always been proud of her kids' successes, but what made her proudest was who they'd become, people who valued family and remembered their roots. As the car drove, she realized they were heading deeper into the countryside. The riddle about the field returned to her mind. Where was Karoline taking her? Maybe a special picnic? She had no idea that at that moment, Karoline, Michael, Sophie and the crew were putting the final touches on her dream house. The storm's damage was repaired. New cabinets were installed at lightning speed. The small garden was planted with Mom's favorite carnations. Everything was set for the big moment. In Karoline's pocket was a set of keys tied with a red ribbon, the keys to the house her mom had dreamed of for years. In the car, Diane gazed at the lush green fields stretching past the window. "My goodness," she said to Daniel, "these fields are gorgeous. Whoever lives here must be so happy." Daniel just smiled, keeping his eyes on the road. The car slowed as it approached a wooden gate. Daniel pressed a button, and the gate swung open, revealing a winding driveway. At its end stood a charming house with large windows reflecting the afternoon sun. "What is this place?" Diane asked, puzzled. "A hotel? You'll see," Daniel said. As the car stopped in front of the house, on the steps stood 3 figures, Karoline in the center, beaming. Michael and Sophie flanked her. Karoline held something in her hand, but Diane couldn't make it out. Daniel opened the car door. "We're here, Mrs. Leavitt." Still bewildered, Diane stepped out. A gentle breeze from the fields brushed her hair as she looked at her kids, all smiling with barely contained excitement. "What's going on?" she asked, glancing from one to another. "Whose house is this?" Before anyone could answer, Daniel spoke up. "Mrs. Leavitt, I think I owe you a bit of an explanation." Diane turned to the driver, confused. "This ride was part of the surprise," Daniel said. Your daughter asked me to share a few things on the way, but you were so caught up in the countryside that I didn't get the chance. Diane looked at Karoline, who nodded encouragingly. Listen to him, Mom, Karoline said. It's important. Daniel gave a small smile. I haven't just been Miss Karoline's driver for 2 years. I've also been a project manager for her campaign, and there are a few things I think you should know about your daughter. Diane listened as Daniel began sharing stories she'd never heard. Once a media staffer made a huge mistake, botching an important speech, Daniel said. Everyone thought Karoline would fire them on the spot, but she pulled them aside and said, "You just learned a valuable lesson. Use it." That person's now one of her best advisors. Diane's eyes welled as she listened. This was the Karoline she knew, the girl with a generous heart behind her sharp mind. Another time, Daniel continued. A big blizzard hit New Hampshire, damaging a volunteer's home. Their furniture was ruined. It wasn't her responsibility, but Karoline personally raised funds to fix their house and replace their things. She said, "No one should suffer for helping me on the campaign." Karoline looked embarrassed. "Daniel, that's enough. You're making me sound better than I am." "I'm just telling what I've seen," Daniel replied. The Karoline the public knows isn't the whole person. Diane took Karoline's hand, squeezing it gently. "I've always known that," she said softly. As they stood there, a breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass from the fields. In the distance, birdsong echoed. "It was a beautiful ride," Diane said, looking around. "We passed areas hit by the storm. So many people took a hit. I hope they're getting help." Michael and Sophie exchanged a glance. Their mom always thought of others first. "I donated to the local relief fund," Karoline said, "and sent food to families who lost power." Diane nodded, pleased. "That's my girl." She looked back at the house behind them. "But you still haven't told me why we're here. Is this a friend's house? Are we having dinner here?" Before anyone could answer, Daniel's phone rang. After a brief conversation, he turned to Karoline. "Miss Leavitt, there's an issue at the gate. The delivery truck with the special item can't get through. The road's still blocked from fallen trees." Karoline's face tensed. "Mom, I'll be right back. There's something I need to handle." As Karoline and Daniel hurried off, Diane turned to Michael and Sophie. "Will someone please tell me what's going on?" They both smiled mysteriously. "You'll find out soon enough," Michael said, offering his arm. "Want to take a walk while we wait? The countryside here is gorgeous." Diane took his arm, still confused but willing to play along. They strolled along a path around the house, passing lush green fields and a few vibrant red maples. Diane breathed deeply, savoring the fresh air. "So peaceful," she said. "I always dreamed of a place like this. A porch, a garden, room for the family to gather." Sophie smiled, keeping the secret. "Just enjoy it, Mom. It'll be worth it." At the house, Karoline and Daniel sorted out the delivery truck, the final oak dining table for the kitchen. She checked in with Olivia over the phone. Everything was nearly done. Floral curtains hung, bookshelves stocked with Mom's favorite novels. The garden tended despite lingering snow. Karoline smiled, imagining the moment Mom would walk in. She returned to the steps, where Michael and Sophie were guiding Mom back. Diane looked at the house, still thinking it was a temporary stop. "Karoline," she called. "Are you done? What is this place?" Diane couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of everything. The small garden was planted with her favorite carnations. The house's architecture was exactly the style she'd always admired, modern yet warm, with plenty of glass for natural light. "This area is so lovely," she remarked, as the group reached a vantage point overlooking the sprawling green fields. "I can see why people would want to live here." "What do you think of this house specifically?" Sophie asked, watching her mom carefully. Diane glanced back at the house. "It's beautiful. Perfect, really. It reminds me of the houses I used to look at in magazines when you kids were little. I'd tell myself one day when we had enough money, I'd buy a place like that." She gave a small laugh. "Of course, by the time I could afford something nice, I was practical enough to know I didn't need all that space just for me." Michael and Sophie exchanged a look, struggling to hide their smiles. "What?" Diane asked, catching their expressions. Did I miss something? Nothing, Mom, Michael said, feigning innocence. Just enjoying the day with you. They kept walking, circling back toward the front of the house. As they approached, they saw Karoline had returned, standing on the steps, talking to an older man Diane didn't recognize. That's Mr. Parker, a neighbor, Sophie explained. He's lived here over 20 years. Your neighbor? Diane repeated, growing more confused. Is this your house, Sophie? Before Sophie could answer, Mr. Parker walked over. You must be Mrs. Leavitt, he said, shaking her hand. Your daughters told me so much about you. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm sure you'll love living here. Diane stared at him, then at her kids. Living here? What's he talking about? Mr. Parker looked awkward, realizing he might have said too much. Sorry, I thought I'll go. Welcome again. As he hurried off, Diane crossed her arms, eyeing her kids. All right, enough mystery. Someone tell me what's going on right now. Karoline stepped forward, looking slightly nervous. Come inside, Mom. I need to show you something. As they approached the front door, Diane noticed something she hadn't before. Flanking the entrance were pots of carnations identical to the ones she used to grow in the small yard of the ice cream shop when the kids were young. Those flowers, she started, but her voice caught, unable to continue. Yes, Karoline said softly. The very ones. She opened the door, gesturing for her mom to step inside first. Diane walked in, gasping. The entryway opened into a spacious living room with large windows overlooking the green fields. Sunlight poured through, illuminating the space. It's beautiful, she whispered. But I still don't understand. Whose house is this? Karoline took a deep breath, her hand reaching into her pocket. The moment she'd planned for months had arrived. Mom, she began, her voice unusually gentle. I need to ask you something. Diane looked at her daughter's face, serious yet brimming with anticipation. Suddenly, it clicked. Her heart raced as everything. The cryptic invitation, the album, the riddle, the countryside drive, fell into place. Karoline, she whispered, her voice trembling. What have you done? Karoline stepped forward, pulling a set of keys tied with a red ribbon from her pocket. Mom, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Do you remember the house you always dreamed of? The one in the meadows, with a porch and a garden, room for the whole family? She held the keys out to her mom. Welcome home. Diane froze, her eyes moving from the keys to Karoline's face. Tears spilled over, and she pulled Karoline into a tight hug. Then Michael and Sophie, speechless. How could you? She whispered, looking at the house. Diane stared at the keys, then at Karoline, as if she couldn't believe her eyes. Slowly realization dawned in her gaze. This, she began, her voice barely audible. This is for me. Karoline nodded, too choked up to speak. Diane covered her mouth, looking at the beautiful room with new eyes. The whole house? This is mine? Michael stepped forward, putting an arm around her shoulders. All yours, Mom. Karoline bought it for you. But why? Diane asked, still stunned. Because you deserve it, Karoline said simply. Because you gave us everything, even when you had nothing. Tears streamed down Diane's face, rolling freely. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Sophie said gently. Diane looked at the keys in Karoline's hand. Slowly she reached for them. As her fingers closed around them, a sob escaped. The emotions she'd held back burst forth, and she cried deeply, her body shaking with the weight of it. Karoline stepped forward, wrapping her mom in a tight hug. It's okay, Mom. Don't cry. But Diane couldn't stop. Years of sacrifice, always putting her kids first, dreaming of a house in the meadows, but choosing to spend on her family. All of it poured out in her tears. I never expected. She tried to say between sobs. We know, Mom, Michael said, his eyes glistening too. That's why we wanted to do this for you. In the background, Olivia and a few crew members stood quietly at the door. They'd worked tirelessly to create this moment, and Diane's reaction made every grueling hour worthwhile. Olivia discreetly wiped a tear. In her design career, She'd built homes for celebrities, but she'd never seen emotion like this. This wasn't just joy over a beautiful house. It was something far deeper. Diane finally calmed enough to speak. Looking at Karoline, her cheeks wet, she said, "But it's too much. I don't need a whole house like this." "You should have saved your money." Karoline gave a soft laugh, shaking her head. "Still my practical mom. After everything, that's your first reaction, telling me to save." "Well, it's true," Diane insisted, though her eyes still marveled at the space. "This must have cost a fortune." "Mom," Karoline said seriously, "do you know what you gave me? Not just a life, but belief. When no one thought I could make it to the White House at 25, you did. When people laughed at a young girl doing big politics, you didn't. No amount of money can repay that." Diane reached out, touching Karoline's cheek, her eyes full of love. "You didn't need me to believe. You'd have succeeded anyway." "No," Karoline said firmly. "I wouldn't have. There were times your belief was the only thing that kept me going." Diane looked at Michael and Sophie, who both nodded in agreement. "You never gave up on us," Sophie said. "No matter how bad things got," Michael added. "Remember those nights in Atkinson when we couldn't afford heat? You wrapped us in blankets, telling us stories about the great lives we'd have. You made us believe anything was possible." Diane looked at her 3 successful, kind children, and fresh tears welled up. But these were tears of pride and joy. "I still can't believe this is mine," she said, staring at the keys. The red ribbon gleamed in the sunlight streaming through the window, almost glowing. "Believe it," Karoline smiled. "And we haven't shown you the best parts yet. Want a tour?" Diane nodded eagerly, wiping her tears. "Yes, please." Karoline led her mom through the living room, pointing out the bookshelf stocked with her favorite novels. They moved to the kitchen, where the oak table and new cabinets gleamed under the lights. "You can cook for the whole family here," Karoline said. Diane touched the tabletop, smiling. "It's perfect." They stepped onto the porch, where rocking chairs overlooked the fields. The small garden, though still dusted with storm snow, was planted with carnations. "You remembered every detail," Diane whispered, hugging Karoline again. Michael and Sophie followed, sharing stories of battling the storm to finish the house. Diane listened, her heart full of gratitude. The house wasn't just a gift, it was a symbol of love and sacrifice, binding the family across years. As she walked through each room, she felt this wasn't just a place to live, but a true home where she'd spend joyful days with her kids and grandkids. Over the next hour, Karoline, Michael, and Sophie showed Diane her new home. Each room brought gasps of surprise and delight. The kitchen was exactly as she'd described her dream cooking space, big enough for family gatherings, with modern appliances and a large island in the center. "This is where we'll have dinners together," Sophie explained. "The whole family, like you always wanted." The master bedroom overlooked the fields, with a private porch where Diane could sit and take in the view. The bathroom had a deep soaking tub by a window, with a stunning vista. "I can't believe I'll wake up to this every morning," Diane said, standing at the bedroom window. Each guest room was designed for the grandkids, with colors and themes they loved so they could visit any time. Michael pointed out the library, filled with Diane's favorite books, curated by Sophie over months. There was a small office where she could work on business consulting or writing. In the backyard, they showed her the garden with her beloved carnations and vegetables. There was an outdoor dining area, under a pergola draped with flowers. As the tour continued, Diane's initial shock gave way to growing joy. She began to smile, then laugh. She ran her hand over tabletops, tested the sofa, opened and closed cabinets, like a kid with a new toy. "You remembered everything," she kept saying. "Every little detail I ever mentioned." "We had help," Karoline admitted, introducing her to Olivia. "Olivia's the designer who made it all real, even when a blizzard tried to derail us." Diane shook Olivia's hand warmly. "Thank you for creating my dream home. It's more beautiful than I ever imagined." Olivia smiled. "It was my pleasure, Mrs. Leavitt. And I have to say, your daughter's one of the most determined people I've ever met." When the storm hit, most clients would have postponed the reveal. Not Karoline. She was out in the snow, patching the roof herself. Diane looked at Karoline, astonished. You did that? We all did, Michael said. Nothing was going to ruin this surprise. As the tour ended on the porch overlooking the fields, Diane noticed a small structure near the garden they hadn't mentioned. What's that? She asked, pointing at it. Karoline glanced over, then quickly said, just a shed. Nothing interesting. She redirected her mom's attention. Look at that sunset. Perfect, right? Diane nodded, but curiosity stirred. Something about Karoline's quick subject change felt off, but with so much to take in, she didn't dwell on it. As they stood watching the sunset, the sky ablaze with orange and pink, Diane hugged her kids. Thank you, she said softly. Not just for this incredible house, but for being such incredible people. My greatest joy has always been watching you grow into kind, successful adults. As they embraced in the fading light, no one noticed Olivia slip away through a side gate, heading to the mysterious structure Diane had asked about. She stepped inside quickly, checking that everything was secure before locking it again. The next morning, Diane woke in her new bedroom. For a moment she was disoriented. The light came from an unfamiliar angle, the bed was different, and she heard birdsong from the fields. Then she remembered, and a smile spread across her face. This was her house, her dream home in rural New Hampshire. She got out of bed, walking to the large window. The view of green meadows took her breath away. She slipped on a robe, stepped onto the porch, and breathed in the crisp air. Everything from the floral curtains to the rocking chairs was exactly as she'd dreamed. She wandered to the garden, touching the carnations still damp with dew. She thought of Karoline, Michael and Sophie, their journey from tough days in Atkinson to this moment. She recalled cold nights when she told stories to distract her kids from hunger. Now, they'd given her this house, a way of repaying her love. As she turned back to the house, she noticed the small structure near the garden again. Curious, she walked over, but the door was locked. She smiled, suspecting Karoline was hiding another surprise. That girl, she whispered, her heart full of love. She returned to the kitchen, starting a pot of tea, ready to begin her first day in her new home, a place she knew would be filled with family memories. The lush green fields stretched to the horizon, early sunlight painting a golden streak across the grass. Diane opened the glass door, stepping onto her private porch, breathing in the crisp air tinged with the scent of earth. Is this real? She whispered. A knock at the bedroom door interrupted her thoughts. Mom, you up? It was Karoline's voice. Come in, Diane called. Karoline entered, carrying a breakfast tray with fresh fruit, yogurt, and coffee. First breakfast in your new home, she said, setting the tray on a small porch table. Sleep well, like a baby, Diane replied, sitting down. I still can't believe this is mine. Believe it, Karoline grinned, sitting across from her. And there's more to see today. We only gave you the basics yesterday. After breakfast, Karoline led her mom around the house, this time highlighting special details. In the kitchen, she opened a cabinet, revealing a replica of the spice rack Diane used when the kids were young. Remember this? Diane asked, touching it in awe. Michael recreated it, Karoline explained. He said you always knew exactly where every jar was without looking. In the living room, Karoline showed how the lighting was programmed to her mom's preferences. Bright in the morning, soft at night. It's a smart house, she said. You control everything from this panel or by voice. Watch evening mode lighting. The lights shifted to a warm golden glow. It's magical, Diane said. But I hope I can remember the commands. Don't worry, Karoline reassured her. We made a simple guidebook, and I'm a phone call away if you need help. They reached a room not shown yesterday, a home gym with top-notch equipment for Diane's daily workouts. I know you value exercise, Karoline said. So we picked the best gear. Wonderful, Diane said. Inspecting the treadmill. Much better than squeezing into hotel gyms on business trips. Next, Karoline took her to the master bathroom, pointing out the shower's special features. See these buttons? This one's rain. This one's like a massage. She pressed a button, and multiple jets sprayed from the walls. Like a spa at home. Diane laughed delightedly. I might never leave this shower. As they continued, Karoline pointed out dozens of thoughtful touches, custom bookshelves modeled after one from their childhood home, family photos arranged into a curated collection, a coat rack by the door, copied from a magazine design Diane once liked. How did you remember all this? Diane asked, amazed at the meticulousness. We pooled our memories, Karoline explained. Michael, Sophie, and I listed everything you ever mentioned over the years. Sophie even went through old photos to find things you loved from houses when we were kids. Back in the master bedroom, Karoline revealed something saved for today, a wall adorned with framed quotes. Each frame held words Diane had said to her kids over the years. These are yours, Mom, Karoline said softly. The things you taught us shaped who we are. Diane slowly read each one. You can do anything if you set your mind to it. Kindness matters more than being right. No problem is too big to find a solution. Always leave things better than you found them. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Reading the words she'd spoken long ago, Diane's eyes filled with tears. I can't believe you remembered all these. We remembered because they mattered, Karoline said. They guided us. Still do. Diane hugged Karoline, then looked out the window where the fields shimmered in the sun. She thought of days in Atkinson, working at the ice cream shop, teaching her kids that hardships were temporary. Those words now etched on the wall were her legacy. I didn't know I made such an impact, she whispered. Karoline took her mom's hand. You changed our lives. This house is just a small way to give back. They stepped onto the porch, where Michael and Sophie were waiting. The three shared more about preparing the house, from battling the blizzard to picking every detail. Diane listened, her heart overflowing with gratitude. The house wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol of family love, forged through years of challenges. As the sun climbed higher, she looked at the garden, picturing days planting flowers with her grandkids, cooking in the new kitchen, and living the dream she once thought impossible. Thank you, she said, her voice steady. This isn't just a house, it's the home I always wanted. Diane hugged Karoline tightly. Thank you for everything. After a lunch Michael prepared in the new kitchen, they led her to the garden. It was designed with raised beds, so she wouldn't have to bend much while gardening. These are the vegetables you love to cook, Sophie explained. Those are herbs for your tea. And these flowers, Michael pointed to a vibrant bed, are the same as Grandma grew. We found seeds from the same region. Diane gently touched the blooms. My mother would have loved this garden. As they walked the property, Diane noticed the small structure near the garden they'd skipped yesterday. What about that building? She asked directly. You haven't shown me inside. Karoline, Michael, and Sophie exchanged glances. Oh, it's just a shed, Karoline said, a bit quickly. For garden tools. Diane raised an eyebrow. It's awfully big for garden tools. There's other stuff too, Michael added vaguely. Maintenance equipment and holiday decorations, Sophie chimed in. Diane looked from one to the other. After raising 3 kids, she knew when they were hiding something, but she decided not to press. Whatever the surprise was, she'd find out soon enough. They continued the tour, heading inside to see the laundry room with state-of-the-art appliances, a guest bathroom with heated floors, and the small office for Diane's business consulting projects. Finally, they returned to the back porch, sitting on comfy chairs overlooking the fields. The afternoon sun was warm, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of carnations. I can't believe this is my life now, Diane said, gazing at the view. For years I dreamed of a house like this, but I never thought it'd come true. You deserved it then, and you deserve it now, Karoline said. I only wish I'd done it sooner. No. Diane shook her head. This timing is perfect. You kids are grown. My career's stable. I can enjoy it. As they talked, Diane noticed movement near the mysterious structure. Olivia appeared, carrying what looked like a medical kit, then quickly shut the door. Karoline, Diane said carefully. I saw Olivia go into that building with medical supplies. Is someone in there? Karoline's face flickered, a hint of worry quickly masked. "Oh, that's for a project I'm working on. Not a big deal." She swiftly changed the subject, asking if her mom wanted to see how the entertainment system worked. But Diane had seen that look. Something was definitely going on. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner in the new dining room, Diane looked around the table, where Michael had prepared her favorite dishes: New Hampshire-style pot roast, fresh garden vegetables, and bread pudding for dessert. The conversation was lively, filled with laughter and memories, but occasionally Diane noticed Karoline checking her phone with a worried expression. Once, she and Olivia stepped into the hallway, whispering briefly. When they returned, Diane decided to say a few words. She stood, raising her glass. "I want to thank you all for this incredible gift," she said. "Not just for the beautiful house, but for being such generous children to me. You make me prouder than I can ever say." Everyone raised their glasses in return. As they did, Diane glanced out the window. In the darkness, she saw a light from the mysterious structure. Someone was clearly there. Her curiosity grew. Why was that building being kept secret? She sat down, smiling at her kids, but her mind lingered on the structure. She guessed Karoline, Michael, and Sophie were planning another surprise. Maybe another gift tied to family, or her hobbies. She decided to trust them, as she always had. After dinner, they moved to the living room, where Karoline turned on the smart fireplace, casting a cozy glow. They shared more stories, from tough days in Atkinson, to their current successes. Diane listened, her heart swelling with joy at how close her kids were. As the night grew late, Diane returned to her bedroom, eyeing the keys on the nightstand. She thought about the mysterious structure, but smiled, knowing her kids would reveal it when ready. She opened the window, letting the night breeze carry in the scent of the meadows. This house, with every thoughtful detail, from the bookshelves to the garden flowers, was proof of her kids' love. She lay down, feeling a peace she'd never known. Whatever the structure's secret was, she knew it would only add to this happiness. With that thought, she drifted to sleep, dreaming of the days she'd spend in her new home, surrounded by family, and the memories to come. What was in that mysterious structure? Why did Olivia need medical supplies? As the night grew late, Diane resolved to find out. If this was truly her house, shouldn't she know everything? Dinner continued with Michael bringing out a special bread pudding, Diane's favorite dessert from Atkinson. Sweet dense, made with apricot jam, served hot with custard. The recipe came from her mother, just like my mom used to make, Diane said, closing her eyes to savor the familiar taste. "How'd you get it so perfect?" Michael grinned proudly. "I called Aunt Sarah in Atkinson. She still has Grandma's original recipe card, sent me a picture, and I followed it to the letter." "That's wonderful," Diane said, touched by the thoughtfulness. "It brings back so many memories." As they enjoyed dessert, stories began to flow around the table. Memories from childhood in Atkinson, the tough days, and their rise to success. "Remember when we first moved here? We'd never seen snow," Sophie laughed. "Karoline insisted on making a giant snowflake to decorate the yard, and I did it," Karoline protested. "It just wasn't very pretty." "It was impressive," Diane smiled, recalling. "The whole neighborhood came to see. Remember when Mom got that big job at the ice cream shop, but the car broke down," Michael added. "She walked 2 miles in tight shoes to get there on time. My feet were bleeding that day," Diane recalled. "But it was worth it. That job paid 2 months' rent." The conversation continued, weaving through decades of experiences, hardships and triumphs, lean times and joyful days. Seeing her kids successful and kind, Diane felt a fierce pride that brought a sting to her eyes. "What's wrong, Mom?" Sophie asked, noticing her mom's emotion. "I'm just thinking how far we've come," Diane said. "There were times I worried we wouldn't make it, when I couldn't see how things would get better." She gestured around the beautiful dining room. "I never imagined getting here. But you didn't give up," Karoline said softly. "That's what I remember most about those tough days. You always found a way." "I had to," Diane replied simply. "That's what mothers do." After dinner, they moved to the living room. The large windows now reflected their images against the dark night, with only moonlight glinting on the fields. Michael brought out an old box of family photos they'd collected for the house. "You might want to pick where to hang these," he explained. Diane sifted through the pictures, gasping at some she hadn't seen in years. the kids as babies, awkward teens at graduations, first jobs. "Look at this," she said, holding up a faded photo. "This was the day we moved into the little Atkinson house. Remember how excited we were to have a real bathtub and a fridge that kept things fresh?" They spent the next hour, looking through photos, each one sparking more stories and memories. Diane noticed Karoline occasionally glancing out the window toward the mysterious structure. Once when her phone buzzed, she stepped outside to take the call, returning with a fleeting frown she quickly hid when she saw her mom looking. Something was definitely tied to that building. As the night grew late, Sophie yawned. "I think it's bedtime. It's been a long day." "Me too," Diane said. But her curiosity about the structure lingered. She returned to her bedroom, moonlight streaming through the window. She thought about the structure, Karoline's worried glances, and Olivia's furtive actions. Maybe it was another surprise, a room for the grandkids or a space for one of her hobbies. She decided to trust her kids, as she always had. She opened the window, letting the night breeze carry in the meadow's scent. This house, with every thoughtful detail, was proof of her kids' love. She lay down, thinking of the days she'd spend here, planting flowers, cooking, and gathering with family. Meanwhile, at the mysterious structure, Olivia made a final check. Inside was a small studio, designed for Diane's love of painting, passion she'd set aside while raising her kids. Karoline wanted to reveal it later, once the studio was fully equipped with easels, paints, and perfect lighting. Olivia locked the door, smiling, knowing Diane would soon discover this gift. In her room, Diane drifted to sleep, dreaming of paintings she might create, unaware that dream was about to come true, thanks to her kids' love. The house wasn't just a home, it was a place where she'd rediscover herself, surrounded by the care and devotion of her family. After hugs and goodnights, Diane stayed in the living room with Karoline. "Not tired?" she asked. "A little," Karoline admitted, "but I wanted some time just with you." "We don't get much of that lately." Diane patted the sofa beside her. "Sit here. Tell me how you're really doing." Karoline sat next to her mom. For a moment, she looked like the little girl from years ago, a bit unsure, carrying the weight of big dreams. "I'm good," she said. "Busy as usual, White House work is going well. Some big projects coming up. And your personal life?" Diane asked. "Are you taking care of yourself? Eating right? Sleeping enough?" Karoline laughed. "Still such a mom after all these years." "That's my job," Diane said. "Doesn't stop just because you're grown and changing the country." They talked for a while about Karoline's work, her hopes for the future, and the challenges she faced. Diane listened as she always had, offering advice when asked but mostly providing the steady presence Karoline had leaned on her whole life. During their talk, Diane noticed Karoline kept glancing at her watch, looking anxious about something. "Everything okay?" she finally asked. "You seem worried." "Everything's fine," Karoline replied quickly. "Just thinking about some project deadlines." But Diane wasn't convinced. After a lifetime reading her kids' expressions, she knew Karoline wasn't telling the whole truth. Finally, Karoline stood. "It's late. We should both get some sleep." At the bedroom door, she hugged her mom tightly. "I'm so glad you're here, Mom. Having you close means more than you know." There was something in her voice, a vulnerability Diane rarely heard in recent years. It reinforced her sense that something important was being hidden. After Karoline left, Diane got ready for bed. The master bathroom felt like a luxury spa with heated floors, soft towels, and high-end toiletries. As she washed her face, she thought again about the mysterious structure. She walked to the bedroom window, looking out at the garden, and in the distance the building. Its lights were still on, despite the late hour. Someone was clearly there. Diane made up her mind. Tomorrow, while everyone was busy, she'd find a way to see inside. If this was her house, there shouldn't be secrets. As she climbed into bed, she noticed the quiet, broken only by birdsong and a gentle breeze from the fields. The mattress was perfectly comfortable, not too soft or firm, just as she liked, another detail her kids remembered. She smiled. Despite her curiosity about the structure, she was overwhelmed with gratitude. Her kids had created a perfect home, filled with thoughtful touches that showed they knew and loved her. Whatever they were hiding, She was sure they had a reason, but that wouldn't stop her from investigating tomorrow. With the sound of the breeze through the meadows lulling her to sleep, Diane closed her eyes. Her last thought before drifting off was that after a lifetime of putting others first, she'd raised children who wanted to put her first. It was a profoundly beautiful moment. The next morning, Diane woke early. Sunlight poured through the window, casting patterns on the floor. She lay still for a moment, listening to the birds and breeze. Then she remembered her plan to investigate the mysterious structure. She got up, dressing in comfortable clothes and shoes, suitable for walking. In the kitchen she found a note from Michael. He'd gone to the market for breakfast ingredients. She brewed tea, looking out at the garden where the carnations sparkled with morning dew. She thought of Karoline, Michael, and Sophie, the love they'd poured into this house. The mysterious structure, whatever it was surely part of that love. She took her tea and stepped onto the porch, gazing at the fields. She decided she'd gently ask Karoline after breakfast, but if she didn't get answers, she'd investigate herself. A woman who'd managed an ice cream shop through harsh winters wasn't fazed by a little mystery. As she turned back inside, she saw Sophie enter the kitchen, carrying grocery bags. "You're up early, Mom," Sophie smiled. "Ready for breakfast?" Diane nodded, but her eyes drifted to the distant structure. She smiled, knowing today would bring more surprises. This house, with every detail, from the bookshelves to the garden, was the home she'd dreamed of, and the structure's secret only added to the joy of discovery. She sat down, sipped her tea, ready for a new day in her love-filled home, where every corner held memories and hope for the future. Sophie had left a similar note, saying she was running errands. No word from Karoline, but her car was gone from the driveway. Perfect, Diane thought. Everyone's out. This is my chance. She quickly brewed a cup of tea, and stepped outside into the early sunlight. The garden was breathtaking at dawn, dew glistening on the carnations and greenery. She strolled along the path, pretending to simply enjoy the garden. As she neared the mysterious structure, she realized it was larger than she'd thought. Not a simple shed, but a small building with high-end security features, a keypad lock, and a small camera above the door. Why would a shed need this kind of security? She circled it, looking for windows. There were a few, but they were covered from the inside, blocking her view. The building had its own generator, and a sophisticated climate control system. Definitely not for garden tools, she muttered. As she examined the door's lock, wondering if she could guess the code, she heard footsteps approaching. She quickly pretended to inspect nearby carnations. "Mrs. Leavitt, good morning," Olivia called, walking with a woman in nurse's scrubs, carrying a medical bag. "Hello, Olivia," Diane replied cheerfully. "Just admiring my beautiful garden." Olivia looked tense. "It's lovely, isn't it? Karoline was very specific about the flowers you like." Diane nodded toward the woman. "And who's this?" "This is Dr. Evelyn," Olivia said, slightly uneasy. "She's consulting on a project." Dr. Evelyn smiled politely, but offered no further explanation. She was clearly holding a set of medical tools, unrelated to design or gardening. "What kind of project needs a doctor?" Diane asked directly. Olivia and Dr. Evelyn exchanged a glance. "It's rather technical," Olivia said, vaguely. "Nothing for you to worry about." "Since this is my home now," Diane said firmly, "I think I have a right to know what's happening in every building here." Dr. Evelyn looked to Olivia for guidance. Olivia hesitated, then sighed. "Mrs. Leavitt, I understand your curiosity, but Karoline was clear that this project is sensitive. She wants to tell you herself when the time is right. When will that be?" Diane pressed. "Soon, I believe," Olivia said. "But I can't say more." They excused themselves and entered the building with a code. The door shut firmly behind them. Diane stood there, more curious than ever. A doctor, medical supplies, high security. What was Karoline doing that required all this? As she returned to the main house, she saw Michael's car pulling into the driveway. She'd have to continue her investigation later. Throughout the day, she noticed more oddities. Workers moved in and out of the mysterious structure, some carrying specialized equipment. Once she saw an oxygen tank delivered. When she casually asked Michael, He deflected like Olivia. Just one of Caroline's projects, he said, quickly shifting to whether she liked the breakfast he'd made. Sophie was no more forthcoming. You know Caroline with her secret projects, she said with an awkward laugh. Always up to something new. By evening, Diane's curiosity had turned to worry. Her kids were hiding something significant, clearly medical. Was someone ill? Was that why they'd brought her here? The thought unsettled her. She recalled Caroline's anxious look last night, the whispered talks with Olivia. During dinner, she tried to stay cheerful, laughing at Michael's story about his market trip, but her eyes kept drifting to the window, where the light from the structure still glowed. After the meal, she sat on the porch, gazing at the meadows under the moonlight. She resolved to ask Caroline directly in the morning. A woman who'd managed an ice cream shop through tough times wasn't afraid to face the truth. But deep down, she trusted her kids had a good reason. This house, with every thoughtful detail from the bookshelves to the garden flowers, was proof of their love. The mysterious structure, whatever it was surely part of that love. She returned to her room, getting ready for bed, opening the window to let the night breeze carry in the meadow's scent. Meanwhile, at the structure, Olivia checked on Diane's painting studio. The easels, paints and lighting were ready. But Caroline had wanted a small corner with basic medical equipment, blood pressure monitor, first aid kit, so her mom could monitor her health at home, after years of neglecting herself for the family. Olivia locked the door, smiling, knowing the reveal would touch Diane deeply. In her bedroom, Diane drifted to sleep, dreaming of the garden and paintings she might create, unaware that her kid's final gift would be a place to rediscover her passion and care for herself. Worry twisted Diane's stomach. Was one of her grandkids sick? Or Caroline herself? She remembered Caroline looking tired yesterday, constantly checking her phone during dinner, the hushed talks with Olivia. Unable to sleep, despite the comfortable new bed, Diane got up and went to the window. The lights in the mysterious structure were still on. Shadows moved inside. On impulse, she slipped on a robe and slippers, quietly leaving her room. The house was silent as she crossed the garden, moving through the meadows. As she neared the structure, she heard voices inside. One was Caroline's, weary and worried. Diane crept closer, looking for a way to see in. She noticed a small gap in the window covering, just enough to peek through. She hesitated. Should she spy on her own daughter? But her worry outweighed her concern for privacy. If something was wrong, she had to know. Standing on tiptoe, she peered through the gap and gasped softly. Inside the structure was a medical treatment room. High-tech equipment, monitors, and a hospital bed sat in the center. Dr. Evelyn was checking data on a machine. Olivia arranged items on a tray, and Caroline sat in a chair, sleeve rolled up. Dr. Evelyn was preparing to insert an IV into her arm. Diane clapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a cry. Her heart pounded, loud in her ears. Caroline was undergoing medical treatment. That's what they'd been hiding. She watched Dr. Evelyn insert the needle, adjusting the IV. Caroline closed her eyes, looking exhausted. Olivia said something Diane couldn't hear, and Caroline nodded wearily. Unable to watch more, Diane stepped back. Her mind swirled with questions and fear. What was wrong with Caroline? How serious was it? Why hadn't she told her? As she turned to leave, her foot caught on a garden hose. She stumbled, knocking over a small flower pot, making a loud crash. The voices inside stopped abruptly. Diane froze, knowing she'd been caught. Moments later, the door opened, and Olivia stepped out, shining a flashlight toward her. "Who's there?" she called. Diane knew she couldn't hide. She stepped into the light. "It's me," she said softly. "And I think it's time someone told me what's going on." Olivia looked stunned to see her. She turned back to the door, saying something Diane couldn't hear. Moments later, Caroline appeared in the doorway. Her sleeve was still rolled up, a small bandage on her elbow where the IV had been. "Mom," she said, her voice a mix of surprise and resignation. "You shouldn't be out here this late." "I saw you," Diane said, her voice trembling. "Through the window, I saw the medical equipment, the IV. Caroline, what's wrong?" Are you sick? Karoline sighed deeply. She glanced at Olivia, who nodded slightly. Come inside, Mom, she said, holding the door open. Diane stepped in, her heart racing. It was indeed a medical treatment room. Dr. Evelyn was putting away equipment. She looked up as Diane entered. Mrs. Leavitt, she said, nodding. You're Karoline's doctor? Diane asked bluntly. One of them, Dr. Evelyn replied. I specialize in experimental treatments for rare conditions. Diane turned to Karoline, who sat in the chair looking tired. What rare condition? Karoline, tell me. Karoline took a deep breath, her eyes meeting her mom's with love but resolve. Mom, I'm not sick. I'm part of a medical study, a trial for a new method to boost health and energy. My White House job demands a lot, and I want to ensure I'm healthy for the long haul. Diane frowned, still worried. But the IV? All this equipment? It's part of the trial, Doctor. Evelyn explained. We monitor closely to ensure safety. Karoline took her mom's hand. I didn't want you to worry, so I planned to tell you after the trial was done. I'm fine, Mom. Really? Diane searched her daughter's eyes for any sign of deception, but saw only sincerity. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked, her voice easing but still reproachful. I wanted this house to be about your joy, not worry, Karoline said. I'm sorry for keeping it from you. Diane hugged Karoline, tears rolling down her cheeks. No more secrets, okay? I promise, Karoline whispered. They left the structure, returning to the house under the moonlight. Diane felt lighter, but still shaken by her love and protectiveness for Karoline. The house, with all its secrets now revealed, was a truer home than ever. She knew that no matter what trials or treatments lay ahead, their family would face them together, as they had in Atkinson, with love and honesty. Karoline gestured for her mom to sit in the chair beside her. It's not as bad as you think, she began. I was going to tell you soon, but not like this. Tell me what? Diane pressed, searching her daughter's face. Karoline took a deep breath. 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition. It's not life-threatening, she added quickly, seeing the fear in her mom's eyes. But it requires regular treatment. Diane gripped her daughter's hand. What condition? What are the symptoms? It affects my energy, causes joint pain, sometimes trouble sleeping, Karoline explained. The doctors think it's been developing for years, but the symptoms got worse recently, so I got tested. And these treatments? Diane asked, eyeing the medical equipment around the room. Dr. Evelyn stepped forward. It's an experimental protocol, combining immunotherapy, nutritional therapy, and overall health support. Karoline's responding well. Her latest results show significant improvement. Diane tried to process the information. Her daughter had been ill for months, and hadn't told her. Why didn't you say anything? She asked, her voice betraying her hurt. Karoline squeezed her mom's hand. I didn't want you to worry, and honestly, I didn't want the public to know. You know how health news about me could stir up political drama. But I'm your mother, Diane said. Not the public. I know, Karoline admitted. And I was going to tell you, that's part of why I wanted you here. Diane looked around the medical room, realization dawning. You built this place not just for me, but for your treatments. Karoline nodded. 2 birds, 1 stone. You get your dream house in the meadows, and I get a private place for my treatments, away from prying eyes. She hesitated. What else? Diane asked. I wanted you close, Karoline said softly. When I'm not feeling great, there's no one I'd rather have taking care of me than you. Tears welled in Diane's eyes. Her daughter, the tireless worker, still wanted her mom when she wasn't well. You should have told me sooner, she said, wiping her eyes. I'd have been there from the start. I know, Karoline said. But I wanted to give you the house first, to see your genuine joy before you knew about my condition. I was afraid if I told you about the illness first, you'd accept the house out of concern for me, not because it's your dream. Diane understood the reasoning, even if she didn't agree with the secrecy. So all the secretive calls, the whispers with Olivia, were about this. Karoline confirmed. The storm complicated things. We had to make sure this place was functional before you arrived, in case I needed treatment. That's why we were working like crazy to get it ready. Dr. Evelyn stepped closer. Karoline needs rest. Today's treatment was heavier than usual. Diane stood. I'm taking you back to the house. Actually, Karoline said, I usually stay here overnight after treatments. There's a bedroom through that door. Dr. Evelyn monitors my vitals overnight. Diane made a decision on the spot. Not tonight. Tonight you're coming home with me. Dr. Evelyn can bring the monitoring equipment. You'll sleep in your own bed, and I'll take care of you. Karoline started to protest, but her mom's resolute look stopped her. She knew that look, the one from when Diane nursed her through fevers as a child, or when she overworked herself. Okay, she smiled. Dr. Evelyn, is that all right? Dr. Evelyn nodded, preparing the portable equipment. Diane helped Karoline back to the house, through the garden under the moonlight. In the living room, she arranged the sofa into a makeshift bed, piling on warm blankets. I'm right here, she said, sitting beside her. Karoline closed her eyes, exhausted but comforted. Thanks, Mom, she whispered. Diane stroked her daughter's hair, as she had so many times in Atkinson when life was tough. She thought of their journey, from days of scarcity to this dream house. Karoline's condition, though concerning, was managed, and Diane knew she'd get through it, as she always did. As Karoline slept, Diane looked out the window, where the light from the structure had gone dark. The secret was out, and though it hurt to learn her daughter was ill, she felt relief in knowing the truth. This house wasn't just a gift, it was a place for family to come together, sharing joys and burdens. She smiled, knowing tomorrow would bring more memories, from Michael's breakfast to hours chatting with Sophie. With Karoline by her side, healthy and loved, Diane felt this was truly a home, where family love conquered every challenge. Dr. Evelyn nodded. I can bring the necessary equipment, and a more comfortable environment might do her good. An hour later, Karoline was settled in her bedroom in the main house. Dr. Evelyn set up a small monitor by the bed, showing Diane what to watch for. Call me immediately if this number changes. She pointed to a figure on the screen. But she'll be fine. Today's treatment went well. After the doctor left, Diane sat by Karoline's bed. She looked exhausted but more at ease, since her mom's arrival. You don't have to stay, Karoline said. I'll fall asleep soon. I know, Diane replied, but I want to be here for a bit. As Karoline drifted off, Diane studied her daughter's face. Even as the White House press secretary, in sleep, she looked like the curious, determined little girl she'd been. The shock of Karoline's medical condition was still fresh, but Diane's practical nature kicked in. If Karoline needed treatment, she needed proper care and support, and who better than her mother? She realized the dream house wasn't just a gift. It was a place where Karoline could treat and recover in privacy, surrounded by family. The gift's meaning grew even deeper. Sitting by her sleeping daughter, Diane made a silent vow. As she'd stood by Karoline through poverty and struggles, she'd be there through this challenge. Whether she needed nutritional support, a quiet place to rest, or her mother's unwavering belief, Diane would provide it. The circle was complete. Once a child relying on her mother's strength, Karoline had become the provider fulfilling Diane's dream. Now, they'd support each other. A week passed in the New Hampshire Meadow House. Diane quickly adapted to her new role, splitting time between settling into her dream home and caring for Karoline. She spent hours researching Karoline's autoimmune condition, consulting with Dr. Evelyn, and planning meals to complement the medical treatments. Michael and Sophie had returned to their own homes, relieved their mom knew the truth. They called daily to check on both Karoline and Diane. One sunny morning, Diane was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast with ingredients chosen to boost Karoline's immunity. Hearing footsteps, she looked up to see Karoline enter, looking healthier than she had in days. You're up early, Diane smiled. How do you feel? Better, Karoline replied, pouring coffee. The new meds Dr. Evelyn prescribed seemed to be working. Good, Diane said, setting a plate in front of her. Eat up, it's designed to support your treatment. Karoline laughed at her mom's caretaking, but ate obediently. They sat in comfortable silence. The only sounds the breeze through the meadows and bird song. I've been thinking. Diane broke the quiet. The garden's perfect for growing herbs and vegetables for your special diet. I want to dedicate a section to medicinal plants. Karoline looked up from her plate. You don't have to do that. I want to, Diane insisted. It gives me a project, and it'll help you. I used to study plants' healing properties. This is the perfect way to use that. As they discussed garden plans, Diane noticed Karoline seemed distracted. She kept checking her phone, glancing out the window toward the medical structure. Everything okay? Diane asked. Do you have a treatment today? No, not until tomorrow, Karoline replied, hesitating, then setting down her fork. Mom, there's something else I need to tell you. Diane looked at her daughter, sensing the seriousness. What is it? Karoline took a deep breath. That structure isn't just for my treatments. I designed it as a multi-purpose space, partly a painting studio for you, because I know you gave up painting when you raised us. But I also added a small medical corner, with things like a blood pressure monitor, so you can take care of your own health. You've always put us first, but now you need to take care of yourself too. Diane's eyes filled with tears. Not only had Karoline thought of her own health, but her mom's passions and well-being too. She choked up. Karoline took her mom's hand. You gave me everything. This is my way of giving back. They hugged, the morning sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the room. Diane knew this house wasn't just a home. It was a place where both mother and daughter could reclaim strength, passion, and family love, overcoming every challenge, from the tough days in Atkinson, to the joyful ones in New Hampshire. Diane felt a pang of worry. What is it? Is your condition worse than you said? No, it's not that, Karoline replied, quickly. It's about the medical structure. What about it? Karoline took a deep breath. There's another room you haven't seen, beyond the treatment area. Diane recalled the keypad locked door she'd noticed the night she discovered Karoline's treatment. The door with the code. Karoline nodded. I've been trying to figure out how to show you, how to explain. Explain what? Diane asked, her worry growing. Karoline, what else are you hiding? Instead of answering directly, Karoline stood. Come with me. It's time you saw everything. Diane followed her daughter through the garden to the medical structure. Inside, Dr. Evelyn was reviewing charts. She looked up, curious at Karoline's serious expression. I'm showing Mom, Karoline said simply. Dr. Evelyn nodded in understanding. Do I need to leave? No, stay, Karoline replied. We might need you to explain. Karoline led her mom to the door at the back of the room, the one with the keypad. She entered the code, and the door opened with a soft click. Mom, she said, turning back. What you're about to see is very special. It's why I've been so secretive. Diane braced herself, unsure what to expect. More concerning medical equipment? Extreme therapies? Karoline opened the door, revealing a room filled with cutting-edge technology. At its center was an area with easels, a whiteboard, and screens displaying data. Diane didn't understand. Charts, research papers, and images of brain health hung on the walls. What is this? She asked, stepping inside. Karoline closed the door. This is the real reason I built this structure. The autoimmune condition is real, and I'm treating it. But there's another story. She went to a desk, picking up a file. 6 months ago, during my diagnosis, the doctors found something else, something so rare I kept it completely secret. She handed the file to her mom. Diane opened it, her hands trembling. Inside were medical reports, test results she couldn't fully decipher, but certain words stood out. Early cognitive decline, experimental protocol. She looked up, fear gripping her heart. Karoline, what are they saying? Karoline sat down, gesturing for her mom to do the same. The autoimmune condition affects some brain functions. The doctors found early signs of a rare form of neurological decline that could impact cognition later on. Diane felt the floor drop beneath her. You mean you could lose your ability to think? It's a possibility, Karoline admitted. But it's early, and that's why we built this. She pointed to the central area. This is a brain health research space, combining nutritional therapy, cognitive stimulation, and psychological support. The initial results are very promising. Dr. Evelyn stepped forward. Mrs. Leavitt, I assure you Karoline's condition isn't immediately dangerous, and the therapies we're developing have the potential to halt or even reverse progression. Diane tried to absorb the shocking news. Her daughter, the brilliant woman leading White House communications, was facing a threat to her extraordinary mind. Why didn't you tell me this part? She asked, her voice almost a whisper. I didn't want to scare you, Karoline said. And honestly, I wasn't ready to fully face it myself. Saying it out loud is one thing, but admitting. Diane took her daughter's hand, her eyes brimming with tears. You should have told me. I'm your mother, Karoline. I want to know so I can help. Karoline nodded, her own eyes glistening. I know, that's why I built the painting studio here, next to the research area. I wanted you to have a space to rediscover your passion for painting, but also be close to me, so you could be involved if you wanted. Helping with nutritional plans, or just being there. Diane was overwhelmed. Not only was Karoline managing her own health, but she'd created a space for her mom to live out a long-forgotten passion. You silly girl, Diane said, pulling her into a hug. I'll always be here, whether you tell me or not. They sat in the room, light from the screens casting shadows on the walls. Dr. Evelyn quietly left, giving them privacy. Diane looked around, taking in the easels and research materials. How can I help? She asked. Karoline smiled. You've studied nutrition for years. Maybe you can work with Dr. Evelyn on a diet to boost brain health. Diane nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. This house, with its once mysterious structure now revealed, wasn't just a home. It was a place where mother and daughter faced challenges together, rediscovered themselves, and strengthened their family love. From the tough days in Atkinson to the happiness in New Hampshire. Karoline trailed off, unable to finish her sentence about the fear of losing her cognitive abilities. Diane gripped her daughter's hand. Is that why you bought this house now? Because you're afraid of what might happen later? Karoline nodded slowly. I wanted to make sure you were taken care of, that you had your dream house, while I still could, while I'm still myself. Tears spilled as Diane grasped the full truth. The house wasn't just a loving gift or a private treatment space. It was Karoline's way of securing her mom's future happiness before her condition could potentially worsen. Oh, Karoline, Diane whispered, her heart aching for her daughter. The file trembled in her hands as she closed it, setting it aside to hug her daughter tightly. For a long moment, mother and daughter held each other in silence, clinging to one another. Dr. Evelyn quietly left the room, leaving them alone. Finally, Diane pulled back, wiping her tears. She looked into her daughter's eyes, her expression shifting from sorrow to resolve. This isn't the end, she said firmly. You hear me? This is just a challenge, and you've never backed down from a challenge. Karoline's eyes were red but dry. I'm not giving up, Mom. That's why all this is here. She gestured around the room. We're fighting with everything we've got. And now I'm in this fight, Diane declared. I'm not a neurologist or a doctor, but I'm a nutrition expert with 50 years of experience, and I'm your mother. Don't underestimate either of those. A faint smile crossed Karoline's lips. It was so like her mom, facing devastating news with practical determination. Dr. Evelyn's ready to integrate nutritional protocols, she said. You should talk to her. Absolutely, Diane agreed. But first I want to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Explain it in detail. All of it. No more hiding the truth from me. Karoline took a deep breath and began. She described when the symptoms started, how the diagnosis came about, the potential progression, and the experimental therapies they were developing. The cognitive stimulation therapy is showing good results, she said. But it's early. We're trying to protect brain function before serious damage occurs. What about your research program? Diane asked. I thought it was just to support your political work. Publicly, yes, Karoline admitted. But I've been working with health experts to apply the research to brain health, something I didn't expect to need for myself. As she spoke, Diane was already thinking of ways to contribute. I want to see your food logs, medication lists, sleep schedules, everything, she said. There are anti-inflammatory protocols that could complement Dr. Evelyn's work. Karoline nodded. She'll share everything with you. But Mom, she paused, looking uneasy. There's one more thing you should know. What's that? Diane asked, bracing for more difficult news. No one outside this structure knows about the neurological risk, Karoline said. Not the public, not my White House colleagues, not even Michael and Sophie. They know about the autoimmune condition, but not this part. Diane was stunned. Why haven't you told your brother and sister? I didn't want them to worry, Karoline said. And honestly, I'm afraid if this gets out, it could have political fallout. Opponents could exploit it, undermine my position. But their family, Diane protested. They deserve to know. Karoline ran a hand through her hair. A frustrated gesture Diane recognized from her childhood. I know, I'm going to tell them, but I wanted you to know first. You've always been the one I trust most when facing a crisis. Diane was touched, pulling her daughter into another hug. I'm here, and we're going to tell Michael and Sophie. They'll fight for you too. Karoline nodded, relieved. Thank you, Mom. I'll arrange for them to come this weekend. They left the structure, returning to the house in the early sunlight. In the kitchen, Diane started planning meals, calling Dr. Evelyn to discuss details. She thought of the house, not just a home, but a place where the family faced challenges, from the hard days in Atkinson to now. Karoline, despite her health risks, remained strong, and Diane was determined to support her in every way, from nutrition to unconditional love. That day, Diane began planting herbs in the garden, a small project to aid Karoline. She knew that with their family's love and unity, they'd overcome this. The house in the New Hampshire meadows wasn't just a dream, it was a symbol of family strength, where they continued writing their story of love and hope. I'll tell them, Karoline repeated. But not yet, not until we have more data on the treatment's effectiveness. Diane wanted to argue, but she saw the strain on her daughter's face. This wasn't the time to push her. All right, she said. But no more secrets from me. Promise, promise. Karoline agreed. They left the locked room, finding Dr. Evelyn waiting in the main treatment area. Seeing Diane's resolute expression, the doctor raised an eyebrow at Karoline. Mom's joining the treatment team, Karoline explained. Dr. Evelyn nodded. I hoped she would. Her expertise will be invaluable. Call me Diane. Diane said. And I need Karoline's full medical records, test results, and treatment protocols. Of course, Dr. Evelyn agreed. I can go over a report this afternoon if you'd like. As they returned to the main house, Diane's mind reeled with what she'd learned. The shock lingered, but it was turning into purpose. She would study everything about Karoline's condition, consult nutrition and neurology experts, develop a comprehensive support plan, and most importantly, be there for Karoline, not just as a mother, but as a partner in this fight. In the kitchen, they found Olivia waiting, looking anxious. She sighed in relief seeing mother and daughter arm in arm. Mom knows everything, Karoline said. Olivia nodded, relieved. Good, keeping it secret was hard. No more secrets, Diane said firmly. From now on, we face this together, openly. Over lunch, they discussed practicalities. Karoline had to return to the White House tomorrow. She'd taken rare time off to help her mom settle in, using health as an excuse to work remotely. I can't stay away long, she explained. People will start asking questions, then we'll make a schedule, Diane said. You come back here for treatments, and I'll have everything ready. Between sessions, I'll cook recovery-supporting meals, and work with Dr. Evelyn to monitor your progress. As they talked, Diane noticed Karoline's tension ease. Sharing the burden of the secret was clearly a relief. That afternoon, while Karoline rested, Diane met with Dr. Evelyn to review medical details. The more she learned, the more determined she became. This was a fight they could win, especially with early intervention. That evening, Diane prepared a special dinner, her first attempt at a meal designed for Karoline's brain health. As they ate on the porch, watching the sunset over the meadows, Karoline looked more relaxed than she had since her mom arrived. You know, she said, gazing at the fields, when I bought this house, I thought I was just fulfilling your dream. I didn't realize how much I'd need this place, or you, here. Diane reached across the table, squeezing her daughter's hand. That's the magic of giving from the heart. The gift often comes back in ways you don't expect. Karoline nodded, thoughtful. I was so focused on taking care of others, making sure you had your dream house, keeping my White House work steady, pushing public policy, that I forgot to take care of myself. That's why you have me, Diane smiled. To remind my world-changing daughter to eat her vegetables and get enough sleep. Karoline laughed, a clear laugh that echoed her childhood. In that moment, the weight of the diagnosis seemed to lift slightly. As darkness fell over the meadows, they sat in comfortable silence. The future was uncertain, but they'd face it together. Mother and daughter, each supporting in their own way. The next morning, Karoline prepared to return to Washington. Diane packed a nutrient-rich lunch, reminding her to take care of herself. I'll call Dr. Evelyn to plan next week's treatment, she said. And I'm starting the herb garden. Karoline hugged her mom. Thank you, Mom. Having you here makes everything easier. As Karoline's car drove away, Diane went to the kitchen, opening her notebook. She listed anti-inflammatory herbs and foods, calling Dr. Evelyn to discuss. She thought of Michael and Sophie, knowing they needed to hear the truth. She'd convince Karoline to share with them soon, so the whole family could fight together. The house in the meadows wasn't just a home, it was a fortress of family love and strength. From the lean days in Atkinson, they'd built a legacy of unity, and now, with Karoline leading and Diane by her side, they'd face this challenge, step by step with hope and resolve. 2 months passed quickly at the New Hampshire Meadow House. Diane embraced her new role with determination and purpose. The dream house was not only beautiful and comfortable, but also a hub of hope and healing. The garden was divided into sections, vegetables and herbs for daily cooking, and medicinal plants Diane grew based on research into neuroinflammation. She spent hours there each day, tending the plants carefully, knowing each could contribute to Karoline's recovery. In the kitchen, she developed recipes to support brain health, rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds. She worked closely with Dr. Evelyn, blending modern medicine with nutritional science, to create a holistic treatment approach. Karoline continued her White House work, maintaining her public image while quietly battling her health condition. 2 days a week, she returned to the house for treatments at the medical structure. The schedule was grueling, but the idea of stepping back was unthinkable to her. On treatment days, Diane ensured everything was perfect, healthy meals ready, the house quiet, the structure fully equipped for Dr. Evelyn's needs. She attended every session, asking questions, taking notes, and suggesting protocol adjustments. One late summer evening, Diane sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The past 2 months had been exhausting but fulfilling. She'd poured all her energy into supporting Karoline, as she had when raising her 3 kids alone in Atkinson. The sliding glass door opened, and she turned to see Karoline step out, holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, handing her mom a glass. "Always welcome," Diane replied, patting the chair beside her. Karoline sat, looking healthier than she had in weeks. The new treatment cycle seemed to be working. Her energy had improved, and Dr. Evelyn's weekly cognitive tests showed positive results. "I had a good day today," she said, gazing at the meadows. "Worked 6 hours straight without getting tired." Diane smiled. "That's great. How about the memory exercises?" "Perfect score," Karoline replied. "Dr. Evelyn says the combination of cognitive stimulation and your anti-inflammatory diet is really paying off. The latest scans show reduced inflammation in the affected areas. I knew those turmeric smoothies would work," Diane said, satisfied. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky shift colors as the sun set. "I've been thinking," Karoline broke the quiet, "about telling Michael and Sophie the whole truth. They should know." Diane nodded. "I think that's the right call. They love you and will want to help, like I do." "I know," Karoline agreed. "I invited them for this weekend. I'll tell them then." As they watched the sunset, Diane reflected on the changes over the past months. The house, originally Karoline's gift, now held deeper meaning for both of them. "You know," she said, "when I first saw this house, I thought it was the greatest gift anyone had ever given me, and it was. But now I see it's more than that." "What do you mean?" Karoline asked. "It's an opportunity," Diane explained. A chance for me to be your mom again in a way I haven't been in years, taking care of you when you need it most. Karoline reached over, taking her mom's hand. I never thought I'd need this place, or you, this much. I was so focused on work, on making sure you had your dream house, on pushing policy, that I forgot I needed care too. Diane squeezed her daughter's hand. That's what I'm here for, to remind my world-changing daughter that her health comes first. Karoline laughed, a clear laugh that echoed her childhood in Atkinson, when Diane told stories to ease their hardships. As darkness settled over the meadows, they sat in warm silence. The future was uncertain, but they'd face it together. That weekend Michael and Sophie arrived. Karoline, with Diane's support, shared the truth about her neurological condition. Both were shocked but quickly pledged their support, from cooking Diane's prescribed meals to spending time in New Hampshire. The house became a hub for family unity, where they rallied to face Karoline's challenge together. Diane, watching her children bond, knew the house was more than a home. It was a symbol of love and strength, from the scarce days in Atkinson, to the happiness now, where they continued writing their story of hope and unity. I didn't expect that, Karoline admitted. I thought I was just giving you what you always wanted. I didn't know I'd need you here this much. That's often how gifts work, Diane said gently. They come back in unexpected ways. As darkness fell over the meadows, automatic lights glowed along the garden path, another thoughtful detail Karoline had designed for the house. The soft light revealed the garden in a new glow, where Diane had meticulously tended. You've created something beautiful out there, Karoline said, looking at the garden. Like you did for us growing up. You always made every place a home, no matter how simple. And now you've given me this incredible house, Diane said. Life has a way of completing a circle. The next morning, Diane rose early as usual, dressed for gardening, and headed to the garden. The dawn light was soft, dew on the plants sparkling like tiny diamonds. As she tended each plant, checking for growth or issues, she heard footsteps. Looking up, she saw Karoline approaching, dressed for a run. You're up early, Diane remarked. Feeling energized today, Karoline replied. Thought I'd run before my virtual meeting. Diane nodded approvingly. Increased energy was a good sign. The treatments were working. Mom, Karoline said suddenly, her tone serious. Thank you for being here, for everything you're doing. You don't need to thank me, Diane replied. That's what family does. We take care of each other. Karoline looked at her mom for a long moment, then smiled. You gave me my dream house, she said, echoing Diane's words from a nutrition conference years ago. But really you gave me the chance to be your daughter again, when I needed most. Tears stung Diane's eyes, as she heard her own words repeated. She stood brushing dirt from her hands, and hugged her daughter tightly. We'll get through this, she whispered fiercely. Together. I know, Karoline replied simply. Later, as Diane prepared a special breakfast in the kitchen for Michael and Sophie's arrival, she paused, looking out the window. From this angle, she could see most of the property, the beautiful house, the lush garden, the medical structure representing both challenge and hope. The house in the meadows wasn't just a dream come true, it was a sanctuary, a place of healing, a symbol of the enduring bond between mother and daughter. In giving her this gift, Karoline had created a space for them to face the future together, no matter what came. As she returned to cooking, Diane felt a deep peace. The road ahead might be tough, but they'd walk it together. Through the kitchen window, she saw Karoline on the porch, working on her laptop. The sharp mind that had shaped political strategies was still strong, still creating, still dreaming big, and Diane would do everything to keep it that way. That weekend, Michael and Sophie arrived. In the living room, under the warm glow of the smart fireplace, Karoline shared the truth about her neurological condition. Michael went quiet, while Sophie held her sister's hand, eyes glistening. We'll get through this, Sophie said, echoing their mom. They made plans. Michael would help cook Diane's prescribed meals, Sophie would research complementary therapies. The house became a family hub, where they rallied to fight Karoline's challenge together. Diane, watching her children unite, thought of their journey from Atkinson. Those tough days, when she worked at the ice cream shop, telling stories to distract her kids from hunger, had led them here to a home filled with love. She went to the garden, tending the herbs, each plant a promise for Karoline's health. She started painting again in the studio. Karoline had built her first brushstrokes in decades, feeling joy rekindled. The house wasn't just a place of healing for Karoline. It helped Diane rediscover herself. The circle was complete. The mother who'd sacrificed everything for her children now used her knowledge and love to support her daughter in her time of need. And the daughter who'd achieved great success had created a space for both their dreams to flourish. No dream house could be more perfect. As the sun set over the meadows, Diane stood on the porch, feeling the breeze carry the scent of herbs. Whatever the future held, she knew her family would face it together, in this home that symbolized love, hope and the enduring strength from their early days in Atkinson to forever. Autumn arrived in the New Hampshire meadows, painting the trees around Diane's house in gold and red. Over the months, the house had become more than a home. It was a place of healing, where family love was strengthened through challenges. Karoline, despite her demanding White House work, returned home 2 days a week for treatments. Her neurological condition, though concerning, was managed through experimental therapies and the meticulous nutrition plan Diane had crafted. Michael and Sophie, now aware of the truth, became integral to this journey, bringing laughter and support. One late autumn morning, Diane was in the garden, harvesting anti-inflammatory herbs she'd grown for Karoline. The cool breeze carried the scent of earth, reminding her of Atkinson days, working at the ice cream shop to raise her kids. Now this garden was a testament to her strength, not just nurturing her children, but helping her daughter fight illness. As she tied a bundle of mint, she heard a car. Karoline stepped out, earlier than scheduled, wearing a light jacket, looking healthier than she had months ago. "You're back early?" Diane asked, standing and brushing dirt from her hands. "A meeting got cancelled," Karoline smiled. "Thought I'd spend the day with you." Diane smiled, leading her into the kitchen. She brewed herbal tea, the scent of mint and ginger filling the air. They sat by the window, gazing at the sprawling meadows. "Mom," Karoline began, "I got my latest brain scan results. Inflammation's down significantly. Doctor, Evelyn says the cognitive therapy and your diet are helping me progress beyond expectations." Diane felt relief, but still asked, "And the memory tests?" "Highest score yet," Karoline replied, her eyes bright. "I feel like myself, maybe even better." Diane took her daughter's hand, her heart swelling with pride. "We're doing this right," she said, "but you have to keep taking care of yourself, even in Washington." Karoline nodded. "I'm learning from you. Health is the foundation." That afternoon they went to the studio in the medical structure. Karoline had designed it for her mom, but now both used it. Diane picked up a brush, painting the first strokes of a meadow scene, while Karoline sketched campaign ideas on a whiteboard. "You know," Karoline said, "this place helps me think clearer. Not just the therapy, but knowing you're here, the family's here." Diane paused her brush, looking at her daughter. "That's something I learned long ago. Family makes anything possible." That evening Michael and Sophie arrived for dinner. The table buzzed with laughter as Michael shared a story of botching one of Diane's recipes, and Sophie showed off an art project inspired by her mom's garden. Karoline, often serious due to work, laughed freely, sharing White House anecdotes. Diane looked around, her heart warmed. This house, Karoline's gift, had become a place where the whole family found joy and strength, despite her health challenges. After dinner, they gathered on the porch, around an outdoor fire pit. The firelight illuminated their faces, reminiscent of storytelling nights in Atkinson. "Mom," Sophie said, "we want to do something for the house, a small corner to mark our family's memories, like the quote wall in your room." Karoline nodded. "Maybe a mural, with images from Atkinson to now," Michael added, "and a spot for the grandkids later." Diane was touched. The idea of a mural, capturing their family's journey, was a perfect way to honor the love that brought them here. "I love that," she said. "We'll do it together." As night fell, they sat under a starry sky, the breeze carrying the scent of herbs from the garden. Diane thought of life's circle, from sacrificing for her kids, to receiving their love through this house. Karoline, despite her challenges, still shone, and Diane knew their family would always be her anchor. The house in the meadows was more than a dream. It was a symbol of resilience, where mother and daughter, brother and sister, continued writing their story of love. As Karoline held her mom's hand, Diane felt a profound peace. Whatever the future brought, they'd face it together, in this home where every challenge was met with love and hope. The story of Karoline Leavitt and the dream house in New Hampshire reflects core American values today: family love, resilience in adversity, and the power of mutual support. In a modern context, where work pressures and mental and physical health challenges are rising, this story offers a profound lesson in prioritizing family and self-care. Karoline, though a powerful figure in the White House, faces a rare neurological condition, but she doesn't fight alone. The house, initially a gift for her mother, becomes a place of healing, where Diane uses her nutritional knowledge and love to support her daughter. The herb garden, painting studio, and anti-inflammatory meals Diane prepares show meticulous care, reflecting the American spirit of blending Dr. Evelyn's scientific therapies with family traditions, like recipes from Atkinson. Karoline's initial secrecy about her health, but eventual openness with Michael and Sophie, underscores the importance of family transparency, a valued American principle where honest communication strengthens bonds. In busy American life, we often focus on career success, like Karoline, at the expense of health and family. Learn from Diane, who turned the house into a healing space through concrete actions, growing herbs, cooking nourishing meals, and fostering open dialogue. Make time for family, whether through shared dinners or projects like Michael and Sophie's mural, to build a strong support system. Ultimately, as Karoline learned, don't hesitate to share struggles. Honesty brings people closer, creating the strength to overcome challenges, true to the American spirit of unity. Subscribe to our channel to follow inspiring stories, like Karoline and Diane's journey, spreading family love. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next uplifting video.